The 180 rule, what is it? Imagine you have two characters. It could also be props, it could also be locations, it could be a character and a prop, but for simplicity's sake, I'm gonna draw two characters here. We've got Hat Guy on the left, and we're gonna have curly-haired lady on the right. Imagine now an invisible line, an axis between those two objects, those two characters. This is where the term 180 comes from. So now if you were to draw a sort of invisible field of orb around them, everything on this side of the 180 line that we just drew is where we're gonna put our camera. No matter where we put the camera in this orb, when they're looking at these two characters, the Hat Guy will always be on the left and the woman, curly-haired lady, will always be on the right. For example, let's put our camera here, behind Hat Guy, looking towards lady. So if you drop the drop shadow, it would be there. So what does that look like on camera? That is going to create a shot that looks like this. Hat Guy would be in the foreground because he's closer to the camera, and curly-haired lady would be farther away, and she would be on screen right. And you might even see some of the ground there. So that's one shot. But let's try a different one. Okay, so what happens if we put the camera here, facing farther away from them and facing both of them, right? Boom, boom. If you do the drop shadow, you can see here, it's still on this side, our side of the 180. That's gonna create a shot that looks like this. The camera's gonna be farther away, and we're gonna see both characters at the same time. So you've got Hat Guy on the left, and you're gonna have curly-haired lady on the right. Okay, but what if we wanted to put the camera up? Let's put the camera all the way up here above curly-haired lady. But as you can see, it's still looking this way. It's still, if you draw the drop shadow, it's still on this side, our side of the 180. That is going to create a shot where we would see the grid because we're looking down. Curly-haired lady is gonna be closer in frame, and Hat Guy's gonna be over here, and the camera's above them both. So here's the cool thing. Look at this. All of those shots, if you draw a line down the middle, boom, we've got Hat Guy on the left each time, and we've got curly-haired lady on the right each time. And what that does is between these shots, it creates the orientation of objects on screen is the same. The Hat Guy's gonna stay on the left, and curly-haired woman's gonna stay on the right. And that allows us as an audience to follow along very easily. When you cross the 180, as we will see, what happens is the orientation of those objects on screen is going to swap. And when you make that cut, our brain has to re-catch up, has to re-figure out, re-ground itself as to where everything is. And you run the risk of pulling the audience out of the story if we put our camera on the other side of that 180. So let's say we put it over here, which as you can see, if I do the drop shadow, it's on the other side of the 180, looking this way. So if this is camera 2 now, or we go over the shoulder of the woman, what's going to happen, she'll actually be over here, and Hat Dude is actually gonna be on the right now. And what happens in this case is, as you can see, from this cut from here to here, it's gonna create a popping effect visually because this guy is going to be the same shape as her, and it's gonna look like he transformed into her. She is gonna be the same size as Hat Guy, and it's gonna look like they transformed, and it's gonna create a weird popping effect. First of all, it's not a rule. When you do anything creative, there are no rules. Essentially, anything you do visually will invoke or create a response in the audience. And the 180 rule, what people realized when they started making films and were learning about cinematography, is that when this phenomenon occurs, it flips the orientation of objects and characters on camera, and it creates a confusing effect for the audience.